4, 3, 2, 1.
First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to Fox 12 Now. I was pulling up our ski bowl camera, and I got to admit, I did not realize this is the shot that was going to come up there. That's pretty cool. I haven't seen that one before. But looks pretty good up there. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really do appreciate it. We are live streaming here every weekday. And as you can see, my guest is going to be joining us here. So we are on Fox 12 Now. We are live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, our website, and our app. So lots of places to find the show and the conversations that we get to have here. But as you can see on the lower third, that is our guest, Dave Tragethorn. We're going to be talking about the Well Done Foundation, and we're going to be talking about a new book that is out to educate kids. We're going to educate ourselves on a lot of things. Dave, thank you for being here. And to start off, I think your background is so interesting on what you previously did to what you're doing now, and you've been such a part of so many big things here in the state of Oregon. I wonder if you could give everybody just a little bit of that background.
Sure, you bet. Well, I hail from Minnesota, and that's where I grew up. And I actually went to Brown Institute for radio broadcasting. So I have broadcasting and journalism in my background. Moved to Nebraska, worked in radio there. Moved to Colorado, worked in radio there. Got involved with the ski industry at Purgatory Ski Resort. Worked at Angel Fire and at Monarch, but came out here to Portland with my family in 1994. And have been working as the chief marketing guy at Mount Hood Meadows for the last 30 years. So hello, everybody. It's good to be back on the air again, and something natural about speaking to people from a place like Government Camp.
That is such a cool transition. I was in radio as well. Like that's where I really started out doing any of this stuff in. So I totally get that aspect. And then going into marketing, working at a ski resort, that's just so interesting. So you go from all of that. Now let's talk about what you've been doing here and the Well Done Foundation and just how this transition happened. If you can give everybody some backstory on that.
Sure. When I left Meadows last June, I started a consulting company and let people know that I was, looking for some work and projects and some worthwhile projects that have meaning. Well, Curtis Shuck, who's a really good friend, and he used to run the Meadows race team, so the race program up at Mount Hood Meadows. And he was also in Vancouver, and he ran the Vancouver port. So he's a very, very well-educated and I would say principled individual in the way that he approached business and the mountain and the environment. He loved all those things. He started the Well Done Foundation. He's up in Montana now. And he had approached me about, well, maybe there's some things we can do with the ski industry. So I'm kind of working loosely with the Well Done Foundation. And what the Well Done Foundation is right now there's about 3.5 million abandoned or orphaned oil or gas wells in this country. And
wow.
A lot of them, not only are they orphaned or abandoned, they are leaking methane or carbon dioxide or groundwater contaminating the areas around them. Many of them are in very populated cities in the Midwest and in the Permian Basin, and they're found throughout the country. And it is the number one contributor to global warming right now, short term, is methane emission. So the Well Done Foundation is working to identify, locate, find those wells that are most likely to be causing problem that are usually under some sort of private ownership. And a lot of times the people who own the land don't have the rights to the wells. They don't own those, and they don't have any way of being able to facilitate or to resolve that problem. So in comes Curtis with the Well Done Foundation with the plan to be able to generate income or raise money to be able to well by well cap and then remove that well from contributing to this big problem that's driving climate change. So I don't know what a great organization for the ski industry to get behind, because the ski industry is kind of a fragile type of an industry moving forward if we have global warming. So just before Christmas, I wrote a story as a gift basically to the Well Done Foundation about Willow, who was an orphan well. And she's not feeling too good about herself because over time, while she had been productive, over time she's kind of was capped and then abandoned, and she felt forgotten about. And she really was feeling bad about what she was doing to the environment, because not only, was she feeling lonely, but she started to break down. Her cap started to break. She started leaking things into the environment and contaminating the beautiful meadow that she lived in, and hurting those things around her, the flowers and the plants. And yeah, that's how Willow felt, and so she wanted to become productive. And the story basically has the Well Done Foundation adopting her and then helping her, fixing her. And that's the second chance for Willow. And that's what the Well Done Foundation is doing, plugging orphan oil and gas wells. I'm very proud of what Curtis has created, and honored to be able to be involved with it.
There's so much to learn about here, just even in what you've just been talking about, because the book alone is very educational, obviously probably targeted towards children, but I mean, I learned from it, so so it's definitely helping me. And going back to something you mentioned there with how many, can you say that number again? How many wells is it that are uncovered?
3.5 million
Three
oil
and a half.
and gas wells. Yeah.
So
And
this,
the creation of this, a lot of people think, well, that must be Texas and Oklahoma. It's largely in the Midwest or back east. Pennzoil was the first national brand of an oil company. That's because Pennsylvania. So you go back to Pennsylvania and Ohio, and everybody had a well in their backyard back then. And we're talking 100 years ago, sometimes 120 years ago. And so a lot of those oil wells, or gas wells, they've lost their ownership. I don't know maybe who put them in there, but they no longer owned them, and they've been in an abandoned or orphan state for quite some time.
and all of these wells, whoever it is that drilled these, says you're mentioning, 100 or more years for some of these. So it's probably impossible to track down who originally drilled it or who's responsible for it. And these are leaking methane gas, all of these ones, or the majority of them.
The ones that they're most interested in is identifying the ones that. So what the Well Done Foundation does is when they identify a well, usually a landowner or an agency or someone identifies it, they send a crew out and they do monitoring, so they can determine exactly what the extent of the leakage is, and then come up with a plan for being able to tap in literally to all of the good oil production, well production drilling companies, because the same core skill set and resources that are needed to drill new wells can be used to plug old wells. So Curtis came from the drilling industry. He's got no background. He's basically brought together all these resources to then focus on plugging these wells that are emitting methane or CO2 or contaminating groundwater.
And is this something that the people who do have, maybe find one of these wells on their property or know that they have one, so they can call up the organization and be like, hey, can you come out, and then they'll come out and monitor it and then figure out how they can go about capping it if need be?
I watched a web presentation that Curtis gave just the other night, and it was in Ohio. And the landowners purchased this property. There were 2 wells on their property. One of them was emitting so much methane that they had to move their horses from a barn nearby because all the methane was gathering up inside of the barn. So they actually take the horses that they loved, and the reason that they bought the farmland in the first place, and move them out of danger. And it took them more than 2 years just to be able to claim ownership of the well, going through a very lengthy administrative state agency process, to the point then that they are now capping that well. And the cool thing about this is that the monies raised for this was raised by a group of young people juniors and sophomores in high school who put together an organization to raise the funds that are now being used to cap that well. So, Willow, the book, is aimed more towards, say, first, second, maybe third graders. But I believe that this is a problem that's going to be solved not by me, not by you, but by our future generations. And it is so exciting to see young people in high school getting involved and saying, we're going to be the solution to this problem.
That's great, that being proactive on that and educating and learning about that, and yeah, figuring out how to raise money for something to help along that process. That really is incredible. Just a general question that I have here, and this is, for people in the Pacific Northwest. So the majority of these wells seem like they're in the Midwest towards that area. So what is important for people here in the Pacific Northwest to know about this, or what do you think that they may be not understanding with it?
Sure. Up here in the Northwest, we weren't so reliant on oil or gas drilling because we have so much hydropower and because we have other forms of energy that we use up here. But it doesn't make a difference if this well is located in Louisiana or Ohio or Pennsylvania or Texas or Utah. It's emitting methane into the atmosphere. That methane is now contributing to the greenhouse gases that is slowly warming our temperatures. March, the warmest March ever on record that we've been able to measure. And it was the 10th month in a row that we've had a record-setting month. The trend is showing that we are headed towards increased global warming in temperatures. And the number one contributor to that short term is methane. So what can people do? Go to the welldownfoundation.org. And you find out about everything that they're doing, the projects that they have in place. Companies can purchase RECs, or basically energy credits, that are then used to fund the projects that are actually capping these wells. Part of that is they'll receive monitoring for the next 10 years. So you can actually, if you purchase something like that as a company, you can put that monitor right on your website and say, here's what our contribution is doing right now to reduce methane gases being emitted into the atmosphere. So, the ski industry has been the canary in the coal mine regarding global warming for a long time. And they have actually identified global warming as the existential threat to skiing in the United States. That's right off the NSAA, National Skiers Association website. It's an existential threat to our environment, to our way of life, to a lot of the things that we enjoy and want to enjoy right now. So, like I said, I think this is going to be solved more by future generations to come. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't stop and start doing something about it, right?
And that's why we have you on here to tell us about this and to educate everybody too, to really about that. And along those lines of education, can you let everybody know where and how they can get a hold of this book?
I would love it if you go to welldonefoundation.org and purchase it right off of their website, because $10 of every book purchased through their website is given to the Well Done Foundation and is used, for their efforts to go identify and then cap orphan wells. It's also available on my website, tragethonconsulting.com. I will fulfill and deliver that, and then give a contribution in kind to the Well Done Foundation as well. But I'd love it if you went right to the source. That's who I wrote the book for. That's who I'm basically in partnership with, and would love for them to be able to get the dollars needed, and maybe more so the information, the education, maybe the stimulation that right now. What I would love more than anything is to find a school program where I could come in and do a book reading with the second graders leading up to Earth Day, and maybe just get a whole bunch of young people excited about Willow and the fact that that there is something that can be done. It's not fun to be feeling like you've been forgotten, and that everyone, no matter how small, can actually do something that makes a positive change. So again, that's Willow's second chance, and it's a great story, and I hope that it resonates with families.
Well, Dave, you are such a positive guy, so thank you very much for being here. I really a pleasure talking to you, and teaching people about this. For anybody out there who did just hear what Dave said, so maybe you work for a school or organization, get a hold of Dave. and
Yep.
see if we can have him come in and read that book. And, you
That's
know,
awesome.
yeah, Dave, thank you very much for joining us here on Fox 12 Now today. I really, really appreciate it.
Great, thank you, and hope that people can get out and enjoy this beautiful weather and the climate that we have, and can give some thought about how we can preserve and conserve this for all the future generations.
Absolutely. Skiing is important too. That has to be,
Yeah.
if nothing else. Well, thank you very much, Dave. I really, really appreciate it. And for everybody who's watching too, again, this is Fox 12 Now. We thank you for joining us. Coming up, well, talking about climate change, we're going to talk about weather at 2 o'clock. We've got the Fox 12 Weather Podcast video edition, and that's the gang getting together to talk about weather. So you definitely want to watch that. So that's, again, coming up at 2 p.m. So whatever platform you're on right now, that's where we'll be. And so we're going to get ready for that here. So about 10 minutes or so, if you're watching live, you can join back in. We'll sign off for a quick break. Back in a few. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.
Thanks, Greg.